shadow, and the shadow can only be heard, but never seen.
Let us strive every moment of our lives to make ourselves better and better to the best of our ability.
Sometimes masquerading as the spider, thus concealing his identity from both criminals and the police.
The weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Crime does not pay, but Shadow knows.
Shadow knows.
Welcome to Talking Pulp. I'm your host, novelist Craig McDonald, coming to you from an undisclosable location bathed in blue light. My guests today are Steve Donoso and Tim King, two of the primary minds and talents behind the Shadow-centric, the only fan and scholarly publication dedicated to the pulp magazine, radio, film, comic book, and comic strip character, The Shadow, who is celebrating his 95th anniversary since debuting in 1931 from Street and Smith Publications. In our discussion, Steve and Tim discuss the magazine, the character, some related side projects, and the anticipated launch of ShadowCon within this year's PulpFest convention, which happens in late July. Our discussion begins with Steve and Tim briefly introducing themselves and talking about how they first discovered the character of the Shadow.
I'm Steve Donoso. I'm the editor, publisher, and founder of the Shadow-centric, which is the only publication dedicated to the Shadow. The idea kind of appeared to me during the pandemic when I was basically stuck at home reading Doc Savage and the Shadow, and realized that Doc Savage had had lots of publications and the Shadow had had few to none. And so I came up with this idea and was talking to Chuck Welch, and I said, I'm almost thinking of this like as a crowdfunding. And he said, well, why don't you do a Kickstarter? And so I have to thank Chuck, because that was a great suggestion, which I wasn't considering, but I did. And that's how we started with the Shadow-centric. I ran into the Shadow basically in the mid-2000s when Sanctum Books was republishing. But interestingly enough, at that time, it didn't grab me for some reason. I don't know why. And then again during the pandemic, and then it did grab me. Things come at their own time. It's hard to schedule that one.
Right. Okay, Tim?
My name is Tim King. I'm a consulting editor with the Shadow-centric Pulp Journal. I also help with fulfillment. I first got introduced to the Shadow really by way of my mother. I was a young man in love with comic books. Used to get Batman comics, and at one point she said, well, if you love Batman, then you'd really love the Shadow. And it was just before, or maybe right at the start of old-time radio kicking off. I picked up a few of the cassettes. I was, of course, entranced by the mocking voice, the sibilant laughter. I found the comics, and even the Alec Baldwin movie. And then last, I found Walter B. Gibson, and just absolutely love his writing style. I know it's not for everyone, but it definitely is for me. So I'm smitten, and can't get enough of the character.
Great. Steve, you mentioned the magazine's idea came along through COVID. That sort of tracked the time period when Condé Nast was starting to sort of reel back its right in terms of comic books licensing, Will Murray's continuation novels. Did that give you any pause, either of you, that you were kind of bringing this magazine out as the character was sort of being pulled back to basically the Patterson novels, which are coming out about, every 2 years, if that, such as they are.
I think we're done with those. I think there were going to be 3. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I believe there was going to be 3, and so I think we're done with those. Well, I didn't know what was coming exactly. I knew that, that Sanctum was ending, but I don't think I had as broad a picture as, in retrospect. Now I do. So it didn't make me pause. It was the 90th anniversary of the Shadow. It was 2021. And I thought, if not now, when? It just seemed like a good time. And it was a good time. I mean, even with the pulling back, it was a good time because it was something that was out there when other things were being ended or pulled. So it was, it helped continue interest at a critical time, I think.
Right. You mentioned Chuck Welsh, who is the editor and publisher of the Bronze Gazette, the Doc Savage equivalent of what you're doing. That's been a subscription-based model, which sounds like it's kind of winding down now to a different sort of publication format. Has Kickstarter created challenges for you, or do you view that as more of an asset? It's certainly more time-consuming and more strategic in its business model.
It is time-consuming and strategic. And we're subscription-based, but we're not time subscription-based. We started out being time subscription-based. I think we started out saying 3 issues a year or 4 issues a year, something like that. And now we just say subscriptions for 3 issues. Mm-hmm. We don't know exactly what it's going to take to produce those 3 issues. But when you subscribe to issues 7, 8, and 9, you will get issues 7, 8, and 9. And as soon as we have them done, you'll get them. And I think that's what the Bronze Gazette is doing in a similar sense. It's different, but similar. It's producing its issues when it can and getting them out there. He's heading for number 100 next.
Right.
Which is a great thing. And we're actually planning some special things for our 10th issue, which is 2 issues away. So that'll be fun too. So no, Kickstarter has been an asset, especially since we didn't know when we started that we were going to be doing issues and books.
Right.
So we were only thinking about the issues, and then the first compendium came up as an idea to me, and we ran with that. And then during the 50th anniversary of Gangland's Doom, The Shadow of the Pulps, the first book about the Shadow ever published, seemed like a great idea to update that a little bit and add some extra material and make it much more readable, which is what we've done. It's a beautiful presentation. And now we have the second compendium coming, which has at least 50% of it is going to be brand new exclusive articles that have not appeared in the Shadowed Circle Journal. So that's great as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the sake of people who aren't familiar with the compendiums, if you can kind of give a breakdown, it's sort of a mix of best of the actual publication issues and then some new materials.
And then brand new exclusive articles. The first one we did, and we're doing a different one in the second one, but in the first one we did a group article with about 21 different people. If you were heading to a desert island, what 7 shadow stories would you bring with you? Mm-hmm. And we have anybody from Michael Uslan, Will Murray, people who've contributed to the journal, all kinds of, Tim, all kinds of people selected their stories. For this next one, we have another large group article, and it's about what 6 stories would you pick from the comics, the pulps, the radio for a Shadow television series, and why? Why these ones? And so that's fun. That'll be the kickoff article. It was the kickoff article in the last compendium. That'll be the kickoff article in the next one as well. And then we just have some of not all of the best, because we can't fit it all, but some of the best articles from the journal, along with just brand new articles that we come up with and illustrations. And then, given that it's a Kickstarter, we have limited edition items that are only available during the Kickstarter. So we have a book called Shadow Sketches, which has half of it's going to be art that's appeared in the Shadowed Circle journal. The other half of it's going to be art that's never appeared. And that's only going to be available during the Kickstarter. It's not going to be available on Amazon. It's not going to be available on our website. It's just available during that period. And we have other items like that are only available to people during the Kickstarter. So that's something unique. That's something unique to the Kickstarter that's not available just in publishing the journal.
Sure. You mentioned Gangland's Doom, which was written, was it Frank Eisengruber? Am I right?
Frank Eisengruber Jr.
Jr. And that dated back to, I think, the original. I have one of the original little white ones in paperback. It goes back to maybe the early 80s or late 70s even?
70s. 70. Well, we did the 50th anniversary. So it would have been what, 75 probably? 74, 75, right in there.
Yeah, we're all dating ourselves here.
Because we published the 50th anniversary, so yeah.
Yeah.
But we took that and created a book. I mean, it started out as a booklet, and now it's a 200-page book.
How did you identify that as something you wanted to resurrect? And do you both have ideas or wish lists of similar publications you might want to bring back to Earth?
Tim, what do you think on that?
Well, we're fortunate in that Walter B. Gibson never shied away from being proud of his greatest creation.
Right.
It was always available to fandom. And there are a lot of very talented people who've written about the Shadow and written about Walter. Some were harder to find than others. Some of them really, I think, essential for a Shadow fan, like the Shadow scrapbook that Anthony Tolan was a contributor and editor on with Walter. Certainly Will Murray's vastly expanded new entries date back to the original Duende history. There are still a few that are out there. Rights can sometimes be an issue. So we always respect, we respect Condé Nast copyright for the character. We would respect the copyright of any one that's out there in publishing. There's a few out there that we have our eyes on, but
it can be tricky.
It can be tricky.
I thought I had a brief conversation at one point with Anthony Tolan, and I thought he had mentioned there was some likelihood of that, the Shadow scrapbook being reissued in some expanded format, but that has been a few years, so I assume
he has mentioned that. You're right. I've heard him mention that, but not yet. I guess because we had Will Murray helped us get in touch with Frank Eisengruber, and it had been published by Altus Press 2007 to 2012, and then went out of print. And we just thought it'd be nice to do it with we did chapter illustrations. So there's an illustration at the beginning of each chapter that Joe Booth, very talented, one of our very talented in-house artists did. And we just thought it would be a great thing to do, to just put out a volume of this that people could just pick up easily and read.
Yep.
And the original is good, but the original has tiny print.
Yeah.
Craig, you can help us, right? So if someone is watching this or listening to this and they know of high quality Shadow material that needs to be refreshed and updated, the proof is in the pudding. We put everything we have into our work. You can pick up any edition of the journal. You can certainly pick up the compendiums. You can pick up Gangland's Doom and see, we do quality work. If you're hearing the sound of my voice and you have rights for a high quality Shadow related book, we would love to work with you.
One other thing we did, which was not a book, but Howard Wright, who was the original editor of the Bronze Gazette before Chuck, he came across an article through a friend who actually came across an article, a long article about the Shadow and his organization and how he financed it, and it had never been published. And so Howard emailed that to me in 2021 and said, "Hi, Steve, would you be interested in this?" And I looked at it and I thought, sure, heck yeah. And so we published that over 3 issues, and we published it in total in the compendium as one longer article. But that was very, very cool to be able to do that, publish an article that was written in, I think it was 72. I actually figured out through the article when it was written, because he says, at one point in the article, he says, this much money in 1930 is worth this much now. And so that was a clue. I could look up what year was this much money, and I figured out it was around 70, 72, 73.
So your deduction's the only good thing to come out of currency inflation, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. You've been also doing some thematic issues of the Shadowed Circle. I think your next one is, 9 is supposed to be Kent Allard, I believe, or is that still your plan? Or
it's our plan, unless it changes. It's still our plan.
Yeah.
It could shift to issue 10, but right now it's issue 9.
How do those? Obviously, that's probably a little more challenging to put together than just sort of a potpourri of.
Yeah, it is definitely, because we need, not the whole issue necessarily, but we need at least a good amount of the issue dedicated to that theme. So we write some articles, we request some articles, and then we try to pull it all together.
Craig, I can give you the secret origin of the Shadowed Circle theme issue.
Okay.
So sometime back, I proposed, so we have production meetings on a recurring basis, and during one of those meetings, I threw out the crazy idea of having an issue dedicated exclusively to Myra Reldon, the Shadow's greatest female agent. Mm-hmm. And at the time, Steve, as the founder and editor-in-chief, is required by his role to be a voice of reason. And he said, Tim, I don't know how we're going to have enough material for an issue. There's just not a whole lot of Myra Reldon out there. But we put the call out to Shadow fandom, and, we have a lot of talented people that are fascinated with the character, that understand Myra Reldon. And so we got some great contributions. The staff was able to come up with, I think, some very high quality articles. And so the proof of concept was, if we can do it with Myra Reldon, then there are other topics or themes that we could focus on. And what it really kind of did as a writer, Craig, you're a writer of some renown. Sometimes you need a good deadline to force yourself, or you need an inspiration, right? You have a lot of ideas in your brain, but if you kind of lock in, like, Craig, I need an article about Myra Reldon, and I need it by the end of the month. Uh-huh. That can spur on people's creativity. So that's how it started. And then, of course, if we can do that, what's the next smartest, best one we can do?
And for the non-cognoscenti, Myra Reldon was she in 4 or 5, maybe, roughly?
Not many. Yeah.
Not many. And she was kind of noted for going in disguise into Chinatown. Yes. And I'm going to slaughter the name. Is it Ming Duan?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right. My memory's not as shot as I thought, so.
Good. And of course, it's, we're in the 21st century, right? So we need to be, or we are aware that it's, there are certain things you accept in a pulp world that would at least raise an eyebrow, right? In the 21st century, right? So
yeah, I think
the idea that you could just put on makeup and pass for an entirely different cultural heritage. Back then it was like, oh yeah, of course, turn the page next. Mm-hmm. So we didn't shy away from that.
No, actually,
we also recognize probably of all the pulp writers, Gibson didn't particularly have any animus towards anyone, right? Like,
no, he's probably the least
the
least problematic.
Race
actually.
And ethnicity, yep.
Yeah, Dent even had some
fight evil,
profound lapses here and there. So
yeah.
So, Tim, Steve and I were talking, it sounds like he'll be in his extraterritorial sanctum in late July. You'll be in situ in Mars Cranberry for PulpFest, where you're going to be, I assume you are, where you'll be launching the ShadowCon, which will now join DocCon and various of the other sort of sub-con conventions built into PulpFest. Would you like to talk a little about that and how that came about and what your plans will be for this first year?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 cons ago, I met Joe Booth at the convention. So I've been going to PulpFest off and on for a while, but I hadn't met Joe Booth in person before. So Joe came in and we did our first convention together 2 years ago, and then last year we did it again. And I'm going to credit Joe Booth with saying, next year, meaning 2026, is the 95th anniversary of the launch of the character. I hadn't been doing math, right? So I was like, oh yeah, that's true. And we had observed and participated and enjoyed the other conventions that had now kind of grown under the PulpFest umbrella. And so I'm going to say it was Joe that sort of suggested we should do a ShadowCon. Craig, I've done many things in my life. I've never tried to host a convention or even a mini convention. So I was like, I don't know how to do this. But I talked to Steve and the other members of the team. I also spoke with Mike Chomko, who's very generous, and said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And so the idea, for me at least, as the novice convention guy, is, look, 95th anniversary is this year in 2026. If we start in 2026 and each year we refine and improve, we know what we're doing, we offer more, better, whatever, then by the 100th anniversary, which will be here before we know it, we'll be in good shape. And Mike Chomko said, okay, we'll do it. So this first time out of the gate, I think is infinitely doable, relatively modest, right? So the Shadowed Circle will be there again at the convention. Joe Booth and I will be there, and perhaps a few others. And I have a talk scheduled in the programming around consistent with the theme that's established for the overall PulpFest. So that's going to be about the shadow and the more supernatural stories. The radio show and the movie, and the comics certainly are very comfortable leaning into the supernatural. The novels themselves, not so much, right? It was
Drayton Smith was not that comfortable with supernatural.
Everything had a non-supernatural explanation.
Yeah.
So we'll be exploring those. And then in addition to the talk, we're going to have one of the rooms together so people that are ShadowCon attendees can get together and have a meal together. It's seemed right and easy to do and fun. Mm-hmm. To dress it out as if it's Mars, Pennsylvania, Chinatown. So transform a room into Chinatown, since so many adventures took place there. And we'll have some commemorative material for everyone. It's our first time out of the chute, so we don't know how much to have. So it's not going to be one of those infinitely available items. Mm-hmm. We have a few things that we're working through. But, first time out of the chute, right?
Sure.
We'll also be using social media to try to garner ideas from attendees. And we want to hear from everyone. What did you like? What did you not like? What were you expecting that we didn't do? And then it'll be a negotiation with the PulpFest organizing committee, how much more you're willing to give us, so that by the time we get to 100, we can have a really solid tribute to what I would argue is the greatest pulp character, the one that allowed all the others to be successful because he paved the way.
Sure. Will you have any new publications you'll be debuting at PulpFest? Or by then I would assume maybe the Compendium 2 might be out, or is that?
Probably, I'm guessing it won't be.
Okay.
If I say yes, it won't be.
Sure.
But it's a lot of work. We have a great team. Steve Novak, our layout person, does a fabulous job, and John Caesar, our art director, does a fabulous job, along with Sam Oatley, who's our online manager. But it's a lot of work to create the book. So I don't know if it will be available by then or not. But we'll have some surprises there.
Okay.
And Tim, how much is Baldwin charging us, by the way?
Yeah. Craig, I forgot to mention, Saturday night, there will be a social hour at the Cobalt Club.
Oh, okay.
AKA the Mars Hilton bar. So, something for everyone.
Right.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It does.
As we kind of wrap up this discussion, is there anything else you'd like to tease, promote, get out there?
Just if people are Shadow fans and you haven't checked out our Kickstarter, please do so. We'll have the address displayed, and take a look. Take a look at some of our very cool limited edition things. We have a 95th commemorative coin that John C's, our art director, has designed. We have these incredible hollow cards, which are done on thick stock, and they're large. They're not playing card size. They're more like tarot card size, with holographic images. Some of our covers, some illustrations by Joe Booth, some illustrations by Marcin Nowatzki, who's in Romania but sends us incredible work. What else do we have? John Cease designed a flicker pin. If you remember those flicker rings or flicker pins where you have an image and then you shift it a little and you get a different image of the same character. So he designed a pin like that for the 95th anniversary that we'll be having as well only through the Kickstarter. So check out our Kickstarter campaign.
We'll put links for all of those will be in the comments section, and I'll try and embed them in the video as well. So,
and if you please come to PulpFest and come to ShadowCon while you're there.
Right.
Craig, if I can put a plug in for Joe Booth's long-running blog, I think he's been up and running since 2009. The man is absolutely dedicated to the pulps and to the shadow. It comes up as Under the Blue Light, but the address that I'll send you is called the Purple Gyrosol.
Okay, perfect.
And he, day in and day out, faithfully since 2009, he's been posting about the shadow. So,
and Joe's done our last 4 journal covers with incredible illustrations.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
As well as the compendium covers.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for making time for this, and we look forward to seeing you in Cranberry, Tim.
Thank you, Craig. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Steve.
As you sow evil, so shall you reap.